call the June 7th, 2022 Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. Beth, will you please take roll?
Barry?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Bo?
Here.
David?
Here. We have a quorum. We'll proceed. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, brings us to the consent agenda. What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion. Beth, roll call.
Barry?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Motion carried. Looks like we're into planning and zoning. Is it Sam?
Good morning, Commissioners. Sam Miller with County Planning. First on the agenda, we have LU-0042-22. The Hansons are requesting a conditional use permit for an additional dwelling on approximately 10-acre parcel. The property is currently zoned rural residential. The additional dwelling will be housing for a mother-in-law on the property. Since the property is under 40 acres and in the urban residential zoning district, a CUP is required for the additional dwelling. At the planning and zoning meeting, the applicant had told us that the additional housing was going to be outside of any low-lying or wet areas on the property. There are a few. So we just made it a condition that they give us a site plan prior to even applying for a building permit. We don't have that yet. We have been in contact with them. So that's why it remains a condition on this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this item with, like I said, number 2 is to provide a site plan for the proposed dwelling, and then number 1 would just be our standard adhere to our 2015 zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Is the applicant present?
Doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, I'll turn it to the board. Any questions for Sam? Well, if there's no questions, what are the wishes?
Would move to approve with staff comments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Beth, roll call.
Steve?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Barry?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next is LU-0040-22. Mr. Olson is requesting a zone change to rural residential for a proposed 5-acre parcel. The property is currently within the agricultural zoning district. Okay. Thanks. Sorry. The maps were not adjusting correctly. So the purpose for this project is to divide land up among family. Mr. Olson said the best zoning district for his future possible use for this property would be rural residential. That fits within the acreage size for rural residential, so that's kind of what we all decided upon for this 5 acres. It's also simultaneously working through the minor subdivision process. That is almost at its final stage, so if this zone change is approved, it will be contingent upon recordation of that minor subdivision. The township recommended approval of this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval contingent upon the 2 conditions listed there. And I don't believe the applicant is in the audience.
Okay, any questions? What are the wishes?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman, with the two planning and zoning recommendations.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next on the agenda is LU-0039-22. Mr. McIver, on behalf of Orville Erickson, is requesting a zone change to heavy industrial for an approximate 40-acre parcel. This property is currently within the agricultural zoning district. On the map, it does show that there's hashed lines where it used to be temporary housing that has expired. So with this zone change, we keep these on the map just to show people where past and existing temporary housing was and is. If this zone change is approved, that will go away because the use has changed. So the purpose for this zone change is for a farm equipment auction yard. Auction yards are a permitted use in the heavy industrial zoning district, so they wouldn't need an additional CUP for this use. The property, like I said, is in the ag zoning district and is undeveloped. The temporary housing expired and all the homes have been removed. Access will come from the existing approach off of 51st. It actually goes through the adjacent property there, but when this subdivision was originally platted, it did include an access easement for that northern lot, so we're all covered there in terms of ingress and egress. The property is located outside of any employment area as listed in our comprehensive plan. However, since it's adjacent to industrial down to the south, we've determined that the applicant didn't need to apply for a comprehensive plan amendment. Why it's not showing up as colored or zoned to the south is because that's within the city of Williston's jurisdiction. But as you can see, the uses down there are pretty heavy or just industrial in nature. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval contingent upon the one condition to adhere to the 2015 zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. No comment was received from Williston Township, and I believe the applicant is in the audience if you have specific questions for him.
Thanks. Craig, you got anything to add?
This Craig McIver, it's Steffes Auction Group who is looking for a permanent place to have some farm auctions for equipment. And this site worked for them, and that's the purpose of the rezone.
Does anybody have any questions before we let Craig sit down? Okay, what are the wishes?
Make a motion to approve following planning and zoning recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Beth.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes. Motion carried.
Next is LU-0041-22. Mr. Fuentes is requesting a variance from the setbacks requirements along section lines for an approximate 1-acre parcel. This property is currently within the urban residential zoning district. A similar variance request was approved in August of 2021 for lot 6 through 8 and lot 29 of block 2 in the Winsong subdivision, where this is also located within the Winsong subdivision. The request was for a reduction from 133 feet to 75 feet. The section line road, or 60th Street Northwest, as you can see on the map, does have future plans for expansion. However, in staff's analysis, if the other lots were approved for that setback, it would make sense that this would also follow in its footsteps. Planning Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval for this item with the following conditions. Oh, those are repetitive conditions, so we just need one condition, adherence to the 2015 zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations. Not sure if I mentioned what the variance request is for. So the variance request is for the reduction from 133 feet to 75 feet. The exact same variance request that was approved in 2021. The reduction in setbacks is for a proposed garage alongside the existing home. You can see there's an existing home on the property. No comment was received from the township, and I do not believe the applicant is in the audience.
Where are lots 6, 7, and 8 though? They're on the east side, aren't they though?
Yeah, and that is also a section line on the east side, I believe. Or sorry, the west. It's the west, yeah. There was one, I think it was lot 29, block 2, that's along 60th. That was approved with the first request.
Any other questions?
The lot 29 was approved in August too?
Yes, so lot 6 through 8 and lot 29.
Okay.
Yeah, and just for context, Mr. Dolbeck still owned those lots that he applied for in 2021. He was the applicant in 2021, and so he was only applying for the lots that he owned. And so that's why there's other lots that abut 60th Street, but he couldn't really apply for, or he didn't apply for those at the time. So now we have a new applicant, Mr. Fuentes, who is applying for the same setback reduction, and we could possibly see more of those in the future.
I'd make a motion to approve the, what is it? The setback reduction and the variance. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. And follow the two conditions, recommendations from planning and zoning.
I think there's only one. They're just written twice.
Make it one.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Beth?
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks. And then finally, on the agenda is just a staff-initiated request to waive the township chairman's signature for project SP-0166-21, a re-subdivision of Lot 2 and the Dean Jr. subdivision and Lot 2 of the DC subdivision. I contacted the Stony Creek Township chairman, Mr. Manuel, to come sign this plat. He just will not. So in order to move this forward, it's technically correct. It meets all of our criteria for subdivisions and within both the ordinance and the regulations. So we just want to get this recorded for this applicant.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Okay, we're gonna get into department heads. Darcy went upstairs, but we have the Board of Equalization meeting at 10 a.m. I know everybody's got that on their calendar, so don't forget about it. Sheriff, I believe you got something.
All right, good morning. Coming to you, we're in the process of getting our new patrol vehicles for the 2022 year. We would like to do the same thing that we did previously in 2021, making the purchase of those vehicles through the state bid contract. Seems to be the lowest number that we can get vehicles at, and then we would need your permission to then sell the current patrol vehicles that we have at public auction. That is my request to the commission today, is the sale of those vehicles at public auction. 6.
Lightly used, low miles.
Oh, yeah, they're beautiful.
If they got high miles, that's a good thing. I'll make a motion to approve that request, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call, Beth.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Right, and it's been a little bit challenging finding vehicles. We're trying to stay with a Chevy Tahoe. It kind of fits our needs the best. We have the equipment for that. However, with COVID and microchip issues, that's not easy to find. So you're seeing, I think, kind of a mix and match of vehicles within patrol, and you're going to continue to see that for the 2023 year, I believe. If we're lucky, we may find those again, but this year is going to be Ford Explorers is the only thing that we could find to even purchase. So it's going to be a few years of trying to get that back in line. As soon as we can do that, we're going to have just one fleet of similar vehicles, other than our weight enforcement vehicles. Same thing, having problems finding a vehicle to match that. We may end up having to try to buy that through state bid as well. We're not quite to that point yet for that vehicle, but next year likely we'll have to do that. So just some insight on corrections. We're running some lower numbers, surprisingly. We've been down into the 50s and 60s with some regularity, which is odd. I don't know that it's going to stay like that with summer coming. However, with the space and everything that we have, removed COVID protocols almost entirely within corrections unless we have positive individuals, and our nurses are on top of that. That's saving them a lot of time in their daily duties, not having to do that. So DOCR has also moved away from that. They just recommend a strong protocol or something in effect for if we have COVID cases, which we already have that in place. So things are going fairly smooth with lower numbers, surprisingly. So that's all I have, unless anybody has questions.
Anybody got any questions for the sheriff? Thank you. Appreciate the update.
Yep.
I don't see Dennis, but we got County Highway on. Does he go to get that truck? Dennis, are you on the line? No, he's not. Okay, sounds good. Well, he has frost laws and equipment ad for bid on the agenda. Okay. Yeah, your text message could take us till tax equalization at 10, right? We'll let her call. NDSU extension. No one here for that? Did you know if somebody was coming? Yeah, well, you said Paul has something? Paul, do you have something for us? Come on up, just introduce yourself for the record, and then let us know what's up.
My name is Paul Conlon. I am not in order, so I have a prepared statement. I stand before you today for 2 reasons. Number 1, to plant a seed in your minds, and number 2, to ask you one final question at the end. First, the facts are growing more clear every day that we, the people, have lost yet another one of our fundamental rights, the right to free and fair elections. There is no doubt that some form of fraud has occurred. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay? We must do our part to fix what we can. By eliminating the voting machines and going back to paper ballots, watching over every step of the process, to eliminate all voter fraud, we the people are asking you to make this happen in our county. Failure to do this is depriving us of our rights under the color of law. There's two things I wish to share with you today. One of them is a Supreme Court precedents. The SCOTUS ruled that a landmark case, United States versus Throckmorton, 98 U.S. 61 Supreme Court, says that fraud vitiates everything. By categorically asserting the fraud vitiates everything, the SCOTUS has affirmed that perpetrating fraud undermines the entire endeavor, the whole contract, the complete judgment, and the final result, or the election outcomes, etc. Once fraud is proven, the enterprise in its entirety, such as POTUS candidacy, has been irreparably tainted and the result invalidated. In other words, if it was only the Michigan vote that was Team Biden, their victory would still have been nullified since fraud vitiates everything. Vitiates in its legal context means negates, quashes, annuls, invalidates, revokes, and abrogates. And if I may approach the bench, I have something for each of you. One second here. Since the audience, I don't have enough copies for everybody, I'll just read it briefly. This is from the United States Department of Justice website. Deprivation under the color of law. Summary. Section 242 of Title 18 makes it a crime for persons acting under the color of any law to willfully deprive a person of a right or a privilege protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States. For the purpose of Section 242, acts under the color of law include acts not only done by federal, state, and local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done by the bounds of that official's lawful authority if the acts are done while any official is purporting to or pretending to act in the performance of his or her duties. Persons acting under the color of law within the meaning of this statute include police officers, prison guards, and other law enforcement officials, as well as judges, care providers, and public health facilities, and others who are acting as public officials. It is not necessary for the crime to be motivated by animus towards the race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, or national origin of the victim. The offense is punishable by a range of imprisonment up to a life term or the death penalty, depending on the circumstances of the crime and the resulting injuries, if any. Having said that, when the truth comes out, do not ask me how I knew. Ask yourself why you didn't. Let's forget the political BS. Republican versus Democrat, right versus left. It's all just two wings on the same bird. That's all over with. There are but two parties now: traitors and patriots. My final question to you is, which side are you on? The The ball is now in your court, and the decision you make will answer my final question to you. I have been called back to work. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, we will move on to, did you get Dennis on the phone? I don't- is that a no? You don't have Dennis on the phone? Okay,
Should I just move to the next agenda?
we can.
Okay.
Karen, Bo has a question for you. You want to come up and we'll do yours too?
I guess, we need to have you look in of, we've been accused of breaking the law, so, or denying people of their rights. I guess, is that something you will look into?
Sure. I mean, I guess the gist of his thing was that he wants to move from counting of voting machines versus paper ballots and have the paper ballots counted individually, and that's just not,
I guess I
Techno.
don't think that he was claiming that we were actually violating laws or his rights. It's, he would like to see us move back away from the electronic voting machines.
I guess that's not what I heard. I heard him, that was an accusation that we had broken the law.
If you hand us, I respect Mr. Conlon, but if he hands us a deprivation of rights under the color of law by the Department of Justice, I'm assuming that folks believe that we've broken the law. So I guess it's something that you need to look into and make sure that, I feel that we've provided
Yep.
opportunity, so.
okay, yep, I can
One-
look into it and,
One clarifying question, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we not still using a paper ballot and the machine simply counts it? And then if you need to go back and recount an election, you can still manually count it, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And
Thank
also,
you.
we do have a machine that,
That should be it. You're right, because it is paper ballot.
Right.
It goes through a machine.
Yeah, I think that, well, all the, speculation or whatever over these Dominion machines has gotten people kind of
yeah.
nervous, because you can check one box, and if the machine's programmed to do, if it's programmed to come up with a predetermined amount is
But I
basically is-
think the answer that Commissioner Kemp was giving was, it is a paper ballot, and the paper ballots are there, so if we wanted to go back and there was a recount, it could be done that way, correct? Isn't that what you were saying?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I got it, that it wasn't really about the use of the ballots, but the counting of the votes really from the ballots really, so. Yeah, and we don't individually count, we use the machine, so I think, yeah. But I mean, I can further look into it if you'd like, so, yeah.
Well, I was just,
Uh,
this
yeah.
brings up a interesting question. I feel that if he feels that we broke the law, I'd like you to look into it, to double check. Also, when it comes to elections, we have a county auditor, we have a committee, and we follow North Dakota Century Code. That's what we're here to do. We're here to follow the law. And if the North Dakota Century Code provides us very few options, and I agree. We have paper ballots. If you went back to the Lutheran Church that we voted in years ago, I feel it's the same ballots, that the machine is different, correct? That at that time
Correct.
had the same machine, or a different type of machine that counted. So if the Century Code says that we have to do a recount of an election, then that's what the auditor's office does. So.
And I think, just for my understanding, just for the fact of timeline, because the election coming up, if, I doubt we would even have time to get anything set up for and counting between now and then, would we, Beth? I mean, that's, well, that's what I mean, it's not that something maybe not change in the future, but it's just kind of timing wise, this one coming up is not gonna, I mean, it'd have to be put off.
I think the easiest solution for people that doubt how the election works, they should get involved and participate. We often advertise pre-election for people to come to work, right? I mean, if they witness how it works, I think that might put some minds at ease. Because it's done by fellow people in our community that should be trusted. And I think that's the premise behind this. And so, I don't know, that's been my suggestion to folks that just don't trust, come and verify, so.
I guess in my mind, if we're gonna be accused of something, I would certainly like to see the facts that show that what we're being accused of is actually true in Williams County. I understand there's been problems in other parts of the country, but if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And I don't think it's broke in Williams County. I think we all do a pretty good job of making sure that everybody in this county has a right to vote, can vote.
I think you're correct. And then just to muddy things up enough a little more, I've gotten some feedback from some other existing or, other communities in the county that don't really feel, well, they feel a little slighted actually, that there's two voting locations in the whole county. I think maybe we need to get back to, this is post-COVID stuff where we can have
I
more than two
certainly,
places.
Barry, I guess, I've seen that letter also, and I certainly concur with you, but on parts of it, but I think it goes back to the fact of everything else. Those entities, correct me if I'm wrong, turned their voting over to the county. Because of the situation like everybody else is in, you can't find help to man all of these locations. So this board made a decision through Beth's request of where to put these voting locations at.
Right.
So, and to me, that's not denying somebody the right not to be able to vote.
No, I agree with you. But I think the other locations that decided to have us in charge of it, they're hearing enough feedback to where they're changing their mind. They would like to have it back.
Well, then we can certainly give it back to them and let them do it, I guess, if they want to find the people to be able to man I'm certainly not going to deny anybody that right either.
Barry, wouldn't it, and that one, I mean, obviously, this one's already set for next week, but wouldn't this be something we'd want to turn back over to the committee, the election committee, to come back with a recommendation before November? Because,
Right.
I mean, we can sit here and talk about it till we're blue in the face, but I would say we turn it over to them. They can discuss it and bring back a recommendation to us.
Right,
Because the
'cause
election committee probably knows more about the ins and outs than
From what
than
I
do.
understand, it can't be done for whatever reason. It's
There's a date, a number of
September-
days that you have to
September
have it set.
6th
There you
is
go.
the date that the commission has to set the polling locations by, is September 6th.
So can we make sure there's an election committee meeting that takes place before that, and you have a recommendation to us before that?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay, was there nothing from NDSU Extension? Hello?
This is Dennis.
Hi, Dennis. You're on speaker at the commission meeting.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, you, under County Highway and Engineering, you have frost laws. What do you want to talk about?
Well, it was my fault. We should have did it last month. But if the commission would like to do those frost law grants again for the townships, we can make that happen.
I think it sounds like a wonderful idea. Any questions, any discussion from the board?
Yeah, whatever.
Do you want a
guys
motion for
would
that,
like to
or?
do.
So move to conduct the frost law grant permits.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I would second it. Are we gonna keep the same committee that went through the applications, or do we wanna roll that around, or what?
We can sit the way we did before if you want.
I would say stick with the existing.
Okay, it's motion and second. Any other discussion?
You really need to set a date when the applications are due and then set a date when you are going to award them.
Yeah, I think it is done annually. I think Dennis can send you those dates. Dennis, is that correct?
Well, what that means is we'll get them.
Did you cut out or did you forget what you're gonna say? We lost you.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
So I didn't hear you. What do you want us to set a date? I mean, what's the date you want?
Well, no, I'm here. We need to set a date. We need to set a date for them to be returned. Set a date to have them turned in by, and then set a date for the next commission meeting after the date they're turned in, so we can have them awarded.
So is having them in, that's pretty quick, but is July 1st okay to have them in and then we make a decision? Or do we want to go the 7th of July so everybody has a month and then award at the second meeting in July? Because if we're pushing this
That
far
would be
back.
great.
Yeah, sooner the better.
Okay, so they have to have them in by the next, the first meeting in July is going to be the date, Beth?
July 7th, we don't meet the first Tuesday in July,
Okay,
and the second meeting will be, I'm not sure. 19th?
Well, my little calendar here says we're having a meeting on July 19th.
Okay, so the second meeting will be July 19th, so that's when you award the bids, the awards. We normally meet 3 meetings in June because of the 4th, and so we don't have a meeting on the 5th. I believe Helen can probably,
Helen, can you explain it to us?
Correct. Yeah, the regular meeting is set for June 30th. Because the holiday week, we've had trouble getting a quorum in the past.
Okay.
I would speculate that maybe the commission doesn't have to set these specific dates, and you could defer to Dennis to set the dates when he's not driving, maybe, and just bring it to you when it's ready.
Well, I guess the other thing I'm gonna mention is we've been doing this for how many years? Is there a reason why we don't have a template to follow every year? To do
we
this?
normally
I mean,
do it in June.
I understand that, but, I mean, Karen drafts all kinds of wonderful,
We have a
letters
template
and
that
stuff.
we send out.
I guess, isn't there not something that you can draft for us to adopt so that this is done every year, so we don't have to sit at a meeting for 15 and 20, 30 minutes to figure out what day we're gonna do this?
You know, one of the things we're gonna talk about at budget is maybe overall how we're handling grants. And so we'll just add this to the list of grants that we maybe do try and establish some kind of standard timelines and procedures for.
So we have a motion and a second, and do we want to amend? Who made the motion?
Bo?
Do we want to amend it to say, have Dennis bring us back the dates? Would you be okay with that, Commissioner?
Yes, I will.
And would you be okay with that?
I would.
Okay, any other discussion on this? I've just been given the hold up because here comes a red folder with Helen behind it.
My thought was just give Dennis the authority to set the dates and have him bring you the committee recommendations when it's done.
I think that's what I said, wasn't it, Bo?
Yeah,
Was that good with you?
In my mind, that's what I had it.
That's what I said, that's what you heard. Maybe it didn't come out right.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah, that's good with me too. That's
Okay,
what I thought.
let's have a roll call so we can move on with life, Beth.
I don't even know where I'm at. Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Motion carried. Dennis, you have one more on here. Let's see if we can do this one a little easier. Equipment ad for bid.
Yes. Yeah, I just need authorization to advertise for, some equipment to bid, see if we can get something.
I would make that motion.
I will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Bo,
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes. Motion carried. Dennis, you got anything else?
no, that's it.
Thank you. Drive safe. I think we're down to, have I missed anybody? Anybody in the back have anything that they need to get on here? So I can go to Karen. Karen, come on up.
Yep, good morning, thank you. I just want to give you a heads up that the courthouse lease we have with them expires in December of this year, and under state law, we need to advertise the lease concession really. And so I'm just asking the board to authorize moving forward to advertise the lease for the courthouse cafe, and also to work with the sheriff's office and facilities to come up with what we want to do in terms of the advertisement.
I would make a motion to authorize you to advertise the lease and any other additional items you want to add to that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
David,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Bo.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Well, and also for the record, I just want to say that I want the SO involved just because the lease also includes catering of inmate meals, and so they need to be significantly involved in that, so, okay,
And
thank you.
there's, is there an, including coconut cream pie? Is there a tasting of that if somebody applies for this?
Sure, yeah.
Before we get to Helen, we do have one more thing, the canvassing on Monday, the 27th of June. I am going to be out of town, and Commissioner Kemp's going to be out of town, but we have talked to Commissioner Montgomery. He said he would be happy to do that, and he's one of the commissioners that's not on the ballot. So I think it makes sense if we just appoint Commissioner Montgomery, as long as he's okay with that. Put that down. He said yes.
Thank you.
So you'll contact him with times and stuff, Beth?
Yes,
Yes, thank you. Nobody else? Just Helen?
probably should have a vote, a motion and a roll call.
Really? Okay, go ahead. Roll call.
We need a motion.
Oh,
first.
I'm sorry. She just said roll call.
Okay, do you want me?
No,
I'd make a I'd make a motion to nominate David to do the canvassing on the 27th.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
27th of June.
Yes, thank you.
Roll call.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Motion carried. Now, Helen.
Does anyone want a paper copy of this? I emailed it out yesterday. Yes? Y'all got it? Okay. All right, so we have two positions in the sheriff's office. one, we've had somebody leave to work in the oil field, but then the other, it's actually an extra position that we have. We have some folks out on medical leave, and just to try and make sure we have good coverage, we're gonna pursue filling that. So 2 positions in corrections.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Beth, roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Bo,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
That's all I have.
That's it. Thank you. 8:45, 53 seconds. Everybody's good up here? All right, we will adjourn. 10 o'clock for tax equalization.